Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, as always, Chad Porto. Joining me is the glorious one himself, Marcus Green. Marcus, how are you doing this Monday?
Oh, okay, man. We back. It's back in the holiday season already.
We three kings be stealing your gold. I gotta watch that movie again. So we have some fun stuff to talk about today. We're gonna talk about some anti-business lawsuits first. For almost 2 years, MLW has been waging a antitrust lawsuit against the WWE, and today it's officially been announced that it's been settled, meaning the WWE ponied up. According to Cage Side Seats, the suit from Court Powers Company cited a couple of instances where they claimed the WWE influenced third parties like Vice and Fox Zone streamer Tubi to not do business with them. It also alleged WWE broke laws while attempting to recruit WWE wrestlers and to learn confidential and proprietary information about MLW's businesses. For a time, this is not Cage Side Seats, this is just me. For a time, MLW was using, I want to say it was the War Games name.
Hmm.
And I don't know if this has anything to do with that, but I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, they used the MLW War Games for 2018. And then after that, I think they went with like War Chamber,
Mm.
I want to say.
Oh, that sounds like growing up when they had to change the name of the rap songs so they get played.
Pretty much. So back to the Solomon. The suit's gone through multiple motions to dismiss from WWE and amended filings from MLW back in June. After the latest round of filings, the judge decided the case would move forward. Now, nearly 2 years after it had begun, it's become to an end. WrestleNomics' Brandon Thurston shared the joint motion of settlement the two sides filed on court on December 11th. As of this writing, neither WWE or MLW has committed to the filing. It's not clear if we'll ever learn what was agreed upon by the two sides in order to reach a settlement. Wrestling Observer Dave Meltzer pointed out that general terms may be disclosed by WWE parent company TKO in filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission, but details will likely be sealed. We'll share it. So this is actually a huge deal. And here's the thing: if you're unaware, no major company, right, will ever settle if they don't think they have to. There's definitely a kind of a feeling here that MLW won. That whatever the decisions were behind the scenes, this was the more fiscally responsible one. And more than likely, WWE is going to have to pay up something handsome to MLW. And if that ends up being the case, then more power to them. Simply because MLW, Impact, TNA, AEW, whomever, the longer they're around, the more audience they can build and the better they are going forward as a company in their ability to pay wrestlers and give them a place to work should they not land in AEW, WWE, or New Japan is a good thing. Like having more alternatives is always a good thing, and MLW beating the WWE in a lawsuit is a great thing. More than likely, this is a situation where the WWE will pay them a lot of money to avoid having to go any further. Because what ends up happening is, and it's twofold. One, it becomes more expensive. It'll become far more expensive for the WWE because they know they lost. They would not settle a case like this if they didn't believe they had already lost. Right. The other thing that's important to note is that MLW should get enough money from this to sustain itself for some time. Now, how long that is, how much it is, I don't know. But this is a win for MLW going forward, and it's a sign that WWE's less than honest approach to business will have some repercussions down the road. Um, this it's a good day. It's a good day. Especially with news over the weekend where, while Alexander Hammerstone's wrapping up with MLW and will be a free agent come 2024, signed with TNA, please, I beg you. Richard Holiday, one of his running buddies from the old, I think it was like, what was it, Dynasty? I think is what it was called. Yeah, I think that's right. Returned to MLW to feud with Alexander Kane, the heavyweight champion at the moment. So, cool shit there. That being said, this weekend was far more about anything other than the antitrust lawsuit that WB apparently tapped out on, because we had final resolution. It's going to be the last official Impact show to be seen. Everything else we're going to see until the end of this year is going to be taped stuff and probably year-end stuff. Usually that's how Impact does their thing. And then come 2024 in January, TNA is back. So this is the last Impact-branded show. And well, I'm very excited about the name change because it's one of those things where it's not just nostalgia. TNA was a great name. TNA encouraged fans to chant. Very simple, very catchy. It sticks in your brain. Impact Wrestling sounds like a generic MMA promotion. That being said, not a lot's going to change. We're going to have new graphics. We're going to have new production. We're going to have a new look design. But the same wrestlers, the same mentality, the same booking is all going to be there, which is great. Also, we're getting a new streaming service, which is ironically powered by Endeavor, which owns, of course, or is owned by the parent companies of the WWE and UFC now. So TNA is doing business with the devil. Go figure. They're actually the ones that designed the WWE network as well. So TNA is getting in good with the streaming service through Endeavor. I'm gonna resubscribe or keep subscribed to it depending on how you got to do it. So I'm excited for the change that will come with the new streaming service. And we also got the big announcement that, I shouldn't say big, but we also found out that during Final Resolution that a pretty decent wrestler, not one that I would say, really warrants a lot of hype, but a pretty decent wrestler in Trent Seven ended up signing with TNA after his match on the Final Resolution event, where he tagged with Mike Speedball Bailey. So let's go through the card. I haven't seen it yet. Marcus hasn't seen it yet. I've seen some clips. I know the gist about what happens. There was no world title match. In fact, I think there was only 2 title matches on the card. The pre-show saw PCO defeated Jesse V, Jack Price defeated Aiden Prince, and Frankie Kazarian defeated Sheldon Jean by submission. I would expect to see all 3 of those matches probably on Impact at some point over the next couple of weeks. In the opener, ABC, Ace Austin, Chris Bay defeated and retained against Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards, keeping the Impact World Tag Team titles on their waist. Jody Threat defeated Alicia Edwards in a singles match right after that. In a longer conversation we'll have here in a little bit, Tommy Dreamer defeated Diener by pinfall to retain the Digital Media Championship. Mike Bailey and Trent Seven defeated the Rascals, Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel, by pinfall. That was said to be a very good match. Jake Summoning defeated Jason Hotch by by pinfall. Excuse me. Rhino defeated Moose by DQ, only for that to turn into a street fight where Moose defeated Rhino by pinfall. I did see some of this. I actually watched this at work. I actually saw some of this. There was a pretty decent table spot there. Moose and Rhino really would do work good together, and Rhino can still have some decent hardcore matches, so that was nice to see. In what may be Deanna Purrazzo's last match, saw her and Giselle Shaw losing to Trinity and Jordan Grace, who of course are heading co-headlining the next event. I think it's Turning Point, I want to say. They're going to fight for the Knockouts Championship. And in the main event, Josh Alexander tagged with the debuting Zachary Sabre Jr. to defeat the World Heavyweight Champion, Next Division Champion, Alex Shelley and Chris Sabin, respectively. That was said to be a very good match, 28 minutes long. Speaking of very good matches, Marcus, you and I will have to convene some point this week to talk about nominees for our yearly awards. We'll get those up. The awards may actually go up to vote on either at the end of December or start of January. So we are a little behind this year, but we will have award nominees as we always do. And what we'll end up doing again is try to focus on the top guys and gals from each major promotion stateside and the biggest Japanese promotions, and even some Mexican promotions. That way, there's not a lot of overlap. You know, we don't need Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley and Cody Rhodes all on the same card because it just becomes a stupid spotty WWE fest at that point. So fuck that noise. Marcus, final resolution came to a close. Trent Seven signed a contract. This is the last Impact Wrestling branded event ever for now. Because you can't ever predict this shit with this company. Name changes are part of the game here. What do you think about Final Resolution, namely one half of Mustache Mountain joining up with TNA? Are you a fan?
Yeah, I think it's a quality signing. He can go. I mean, look, Tyler Bate is a stud, and I think him and Trent Seven put on some great stuff when they was attacking his Mustache Mountain in NXT and NXT UK. So like I said, Trent Seven is definitely somebody to watch. Like you said, this ain't just no blockbuster signing, but it don't need to be. Impact is really good at signing some really great, um, probably misusing the term, but good role players.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, to pack out their roster to make it, stacked instead of just, putting a bunch of scrubs around one superstar. So, I think he adds definitely a lot of quality to the roster. And like I said, the fact that they teaming with Tyler Bate should tell you a lot because, even at his young age, Tyler Bate was, something real special. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what they're going to do with him. And, yeah, looking forward to watching this final resolution show. Like you said, it's interesting that we're talking about like the final impact, but it's something else cool too. Because as you were talking about earlier, getting back to that name, uh, it's been something really cool to see, and I think something that was needed as a cherry on top of the sundae, if you will. Because I think it tells you a lot about like the hole that the company had gotten itself into, where they basically had to lose the name and then spend damn near a decade earning it back. You know. So I think they definitely put the work in. Scott Demore is very much dug in and stuck around and really grinded the coal out. I think it's looking real shiny right now. Towards the diamond side of things. So I was gonna be looking forward to seeing exactly what all comes together in the new year. Like you said, not a complete, you know, 360 or what have you, but just a few tweaks in there to make the brand and the show overall and the company far more presentable, so the presentation can reflect the quality of roster that they have.
And that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
When it comes to this company, they're very good at making talent. And the problem is, so many of them get made and then go off to WWE or AEW, and then
Yeah. Then the narrative is spoiled that now they got made. I was like, okay, now
not
they're a
even
world
that.
champion.
No, I think about Brian Cage.
Yeah.
Where is he? He's not even on Ring of Honor. He was the head. Like, look at John Hennigan. What happened to him? There's so many guys that get built in this company to go elsewhere as big gets, and then they don't do anything. Like, I don't. So apparently, Marty Skrull might have joined up with a new promotion.
Mm.
I have no idea. Someone on Twitter tweeted out that he's happy he's back, and a lot of people are mad at the user. I don't see anything about it, so I don't know. Although there were some great reactions to Trent Seven signing with TNA, because everyone's like, I thought this was Marty Skrull.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And they do kind of look alike. And
They
then
do
you
favor. Yeah, they
and
do
then
favor.
and then you got to realize that shit was it There was another British wrestler with a similar name to Trent Seven that also got Me Too'd or whatever that was. No, it's Trent Seven seems like a decent bloke, you know what I mean? But there's a lot of similarities with the names that make you go, oh, wait, which one is that? Speaking of which one is that, people haven't been too happy with Tommy Dreamer as Impact Digital Media Champion, and quite frankly, I don't get it. I like Dreamer. I don't think he should be world champion. Sometimes when you know things stagnate, when you put the belt on Eric Young, I go, all right, why not? At least it'd be interesting. But there are a lot of people online who absolutely don't like him as champion. Maybe they don't want him to necessarily go away, but they sure as hell don't want him to be Impact Media Digital Champion. And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, why not? Now, granted, I understand. I understand the rationale. I understand the reasons. Tommy Dreamer's 52 years old. I get that. Tommy Dreamer has a terrible fucking haircut. I get that. Tommy Dreamer's probably 300 pounds, if not more. I get that. His knees are shot, mostly because he's 300 pounds. I get that. He's a little jolly. Jowly, not jolly like Santa Claus. Jolly like Fat Bastard. I get that. But he's also a legend. He's quite literally... He I don't know what the comparison would be in the rap world or even in the rock world, but he is everyone's mentor and best friend. He may not be a legend to Johnny Nobody out there in the world who watched WWF for 16 weeks in 1999, but if you've watched wrestling for longer than 5 years, you know who Tommy Dreamer is. If you watch wrestling for longer than 5 years, you have a moment of Tommy Dreamer in your life that you adore. He's not Terry Funk. He might be the closest thing this generation ever has to a Terry Funk, sure. But he's not Terry Funk, and we know that. But he lives, breathes, and oozes pro wrestling. He adores it. He wants it all to thrive. He's the consummate professional, and he's one of the best minds in the business, especially for younger wrestlers looking for a break or looking for advice. I don't care that he's digital media champion. That belt really needs all the name value it can get, and Dreamer's matches aren't bad. They're not great. Sometimes I would say they're not even very good, but they're passable. If you watched Macho Man Randy Savage in 1999 WCW, then you've seen worse. You've seen a hell of a lot better, especially with this roster, granted, admittedly. But I don't see anything wrong with Dreamer as champion for a tertiary title. This isn't the X Division belt. This isn't even the tag team title. This isn't the world title. This is the lowest represented belt on the company roster. I don't have a problem with it. It'd be like, oh my god, I can't believe Ron Killing's at 49 or 50 or 172, however old that goblin is. That man doesn't age. He does not age. And then being mad that he's the 24/7 champion. It's like, really? Why? That belt exists to do something with. Dreamer's something. Dreamer has a fan following. Dreamer has a lot of people who like watching him. Yeah, when he walks, he looks like he's stepping on broken glass. I'm not going to say he doesn't. But he's still someone who can entertain. And at the end of the day, that's what pro wrestling is entertainment. I don't need to see guys with no charisma jumping around and hooting and hollering to no reaction until somebody does a 42-75 off the top rope through burning barbed wire glass. Like, if that's all you can do, you're not worth the money. You need to have a personality. You need to have a fan following. Dreamer doesn't. If he wins the world title, I won't be happy about it, depending on whoever he beats. Because again, there are worse options than Dreamer on this roster. Eric Young. But if he's holding the digital media title, I say let him. I just hope he does something of relevance with it. He's competing all around the world with it. I think he was in Mexico recently. I think he defended it in Mexico recently. Dude's 52. His knees are... his knees make Matt Hardy's knees look good. And he's still wrestling. He's wrestled nearly 50 times this year. So, you know what? I'm fine with it. Marcus, I don't speak for everyone. I certainly don't speak for you. What do you think about Tommy Dreamer?
I think he's fine. He works, like you said. One of them should agree with all your pros and definitely all your cons. Um, I was gonna ask you how much of that backlash with Dreamer do you think is due to the fact that we all coming off of a great Joe Hendry one with a title?
I think there's something to do with it. Certainly. The thing though is when you look at what Dreamer and what he brings to the table, it's so much nostalgia and reverence though. Hey,
Yeah,
Kenny King when he won the belt, he's a decent hand, right? But Kenny King was only ever so interesting. He was only ever so clever. He was only ever so unique. King never found that next gear, and he never has. Like his best run in his career, and I don't know how much you've seen King outside of his time in TNA, but in my opinion, his best run is his entire career was his tag team title reign with Red Titus. Because King is like Dean Malenko, not as good. That's a high bar. Dean Malenko in the ring is unto himself, and maybe 12 others in the history of pro wrestling. But like King is the guy that you put in a tag team to have a good tag team, so you can have good tag team matches, and then hopefully you put him with a guy who can talk or a manager who can talk, who can really bring out the essence of Kenny King. So when Dreamer beat him, the belt stepped up a bit. You put a little bit more nuance on that, a little bit more of a factor. And I don't think there's a problem with that. I think what ended up happening though is because so many people have an affinity for Kenny King, because it's like we talk about all the time, like whether it's Jack Perry or Luchasaurus or um, half the WWE roster. It's wanna like yitis. Like
oh,
yeah,
there it is.
because I wanna like you, I'm gonna think you're good. Kenny is decent. He's not someone I would ever put as champion in the company. Now, there are a lot of other deserving guys who could raise the profile of that belt. First name that comes to mind is Rich Swann. I'd like to see them do something with Swann other
Yeah,
than what they've been doing, because it feels like he's getting lost in the shuffle. And it kind of reminds me of 2006 TNA, ironically, when
yeah,
Ron Killings got lost in the shuffle. And basically, he did nothing of relevance outside of, I think he did the Slammiversary 2007 match where he faced off with James Storm and the late great Frank Wycheck. And then
yeah,
he later did the stuff with Pac-Man. So he was basically doing the celebrity stuff.
yeah. It's interesting you bring up Swan because obviously former world champion, X Division, all that. It does feel like the shuffle he's in is not at all too different from a guy who he also tagged with that is no longer in the company. That was also in a similar slump, if you will, in the Mac.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Swan to me is too valuable to kind of lose in that shuffle because obviously I think he's a multi-tool player. You put him out there with anybody tagging or one-on-one, he can give you a great match. But he's definitely somebody you can do something with. I mean, he had a great emotional run as world champion until he hit the wall that was Kenny Omega. But yeah, you definitely want to do something with him. But in terms of the digital media, I think that would be a great hit. I'm guessing now they're not going with Steve. Uh, with the feud, that I'm guessing that was at a pitch for even. I guess they are changing decision, or maybe they'll give it to Steve, and then maybe they could direct him towards Swan. But because I think that would be more entertaining. But I can understand it with Dreamer. But I also think, to your point, he's also somebody that has honed so many of his years in the business that he is so great at evoking like a year's worth of emotion in a segment. Like it's crazy just the level of emotion he can kind of conjure up just off of nothing really. So it's he's definitely somebody that's valuable in that regard. But I don't necessarily know. Do you think they're bringing the title back in 2024?
The digital media, yeah, yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And when it comes to Tommy Dreamer, that's one of the things that I feel like often gets overlooked. Is just truly how good he is on the mic. We talk about it a lot, but Dreamer is somebody who can really make you believe, make you feel. And I think that's one of his biggest attributes. And I think that title does well to be on his waist right now, or over his shoulder, because it probably won't wrap around his waist. But I do think eventually, like, there's a crop of guys. Jake something, Mahabali Shera, depending on if he sticks around, Swan, Crazy Steve, Diener. I think all those guys would benefit from being around that belt and feuding for that belt. Now, I would like to see Jake something do a tag team. I don't know with who, granted. You got to pair him up right. But I would like to see something do a tag team run because I think he'd be a really good Haas tag team partner as long as you find the right partner for him. So then I would focus on Diener going back to his what was it, Gitter promo, Gitter character when he was doing the Quarantines, which were just great television. I would focus on Diener going face with Swan and then feuding with guys like Crazy Steve and Sheldon Jean and going from there and building that belt. But I don't mind Dreamer having a few more months with the belt. I think going into TNA hard to kill is probably the best bet for him to drop it. Excuse me, I'm having hiccups. I think it's hard to kill. I'll double check. Yeah. January 13th at the Palms Casino Resort. And the only two matches announced so far are Trinity versus Jordan Grace and Alex Shelley versus Moose. Mackenzie Mitchell, former Impact backstage personality, apparently got fired from the WWE. So she might be an option to come back. I think it was Mackenzie Mitchell. And while I think Gina, what's her face, is doing a fine job, I think Mackenzie Mitchell would be a very interesting fit for the company if she came back, especially as a commentator. That being said, David Penzer is leaving the company. I don't know why. It might be due to money, might due because he wants to stick around, stay closer to home. I don't know. But if Penzer's gone for good, I wouldn't mind seeing the return of, say, Christy Henry. I think that'd be a great get. However, I don't know if TNA's not healthcare, but childcare will cover, what is it, sextuplets, octuplets? That poor woman. She went through it.
Yeah, I like, I could. This is not the come off crass or anything, but it does make me think about the scene in the 101 Dalmatians when they was being had.
Yeah.
Like, Anita, this was a boy.
I will never forget that dude brought a dog back to life by rubbing it.
Yeah, man, that's a classic moment. Just went, sat in the chair by the fire, and kind of just got a little towel, and then, oh, one didn't make it. Poor little fella.
So I would love to see Hemi come back. Jesus Christ. A lot of kids. A lot of kids all at once. Oof. I respect that woman. I respect her a lot. One's hard enough. But I think she had...
That's 8, right?
I don't think she had... I don't think she had 8. I think she had 4.
Okay.
Yeah, she has 5 kids. She already had 1, and then she had 4 at the same time. Still, fucking hell, man.
Yeah.
So I doubt she would want to be away from all 5 of her kids, and I doubt her husband would want her to be gone for a couple of days every so often. Because 1 kid's hard enough, man. 5 and 4 of them are the same age. Yikes! That's a roughness. That is a roughness. Godspeed, Christy Hemme. Godspeed, Spider-Man. Speaking of Godspeed, Kazuchika Okada, or Kazuka Okada. I think we've been mispronouncing it. I see an I. Kazuchika. That's how I'm pronouncing it. He will be in Vegas the 14th for Final Resolution. Not Final Resolution, for Turning Point, as well as for the Snake Eyes event. And apparently Will Ospreay will also be making one more stop Impact TNA as well. There is a report that he will face off with Josh Alexander once again for the Snake Eyes, which is the TV taping portion of the event. So that's going to be cool. So you have Okada, you have Ospreay. Now Okada's going to be a free agent by the time he stops in TNA. He's said some not so flattering things about his time in TNA, and to be fair, I've never thought that TNA did anything wrong by Okada because he was a Japanese foreigner who was green as goose shit, who didn't have any name value, and sure shit wasn't gonna be booked over guys like Bully Ray, Sting, AJ Styles, Kurt Angle, Abyss, Jeff Hardy, Jeff Jarrett, what have you. Now, different story. So I wouldn't mind seeing him come in for a couple weeks, couple months, couple years. What do you think about Okada popping up in TNA?
100% all for it, man. I mean, look, Osprey and Okada, hands down, not debatable, two of the best to ever do it. Um, Still two of the best going, and then popping up, great. But just like with Osprey, man, probably would err on the side of caution. Won't get my hopes up. Love the fact that he's passing through. Hope they can make that a frequent thing. But in terms of him signing, probably won't hold my breath on that. Just because I guess with guys like him, we've kind of got blue balled a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
that concept. So I mean, I think, like I said, I think it speaks to the quality that the company and the state that it's in good standing, that Osprey and Okada want to frequent it multiple times, because if it was not in the place that it's in, they wouldn't have even shown up or even entertained the idea. So um, feels like we go get, once again, some match of the year candidates in January coming out of Impact.
And God bless TNA for doing that. Because honestly, I want to see more of it. I want to see more great matches from TNA. Build that brand up one match at a time. Now,
Yeah.
we know who Okada will be wrestling for the event. Apparently, he will tag with the Motor City Machine Guns to take on Moose, Brian Myers, and Eddie Edwards. I'm excited about that. Moose and Eddie have that strong style. I don't need to say style twice, but I did. Going for them, and I think Okada will work very well with Moose and Eddie. And if Okada comes in to work with Moose and Eddie individually, I think that would be huge. That would be fan-fucking-tastic. More of that, definitely. And we know that Ospreay will be taking on Alexander. Hopefully Alexander gets his win back, because if Ospreay's not going to sign with TNA, fuck him. He can go get lost in the shuffle in AEW. I don't give a shit. Speaking of not giving a shit, Deanna Purrazzo seems to be out the door. Just like with so many others, the grass appears to be greener for Miss Purrazzo. She wants to test free agency. More power to her. Nothing wrong with that. But she'll likely end up signing with AEW. And if she does, she'll get lost in the shuffle, just like all the other Impact TNA signings have over the years. Ethan Page, where's he at? Do you remember that Taya Valkyrie's in AEW? I sure as hell didn't until I saw a photo of her today.
Holy hell! You just put it back on my mind that she is in AEW.
You know who else is in AEW? Madison Rayne, Brian Cage, John Morrison, John Hennigan, whatever you want to call him. Now, I'm not saying that these people should go to WWE over AEW. I'm just saying that there's a history of TNA talent going to AEW and then going, boop. Think about having Brian Cage for 4 years, and you've done nothing with him. Like he popped up with who? Cody Rhodes, I think, during Cody's TNT title extravaganza stupidity. Then he was FTW champion, I think, for a spell, and that was it.
Yeah, yes, it's funny. I feel like he's doing the most he's done now with what he's doing now, since he's been there. Certainly being shown more consistently and being featured. But Yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think with the women's, particularly with Taya, she had done a lot in Impact. Been a multi-time champion, both I think tag and obviously knockouts. And I felt like she probably thought she didn't have too much else to do. So I get her leaving. I kind of feel, I guess, the same way about Deanna and the fact that very much appreciate the fact that she's doing a lot of honors going out the door. You know, uh, she did the honors for the Equal Badass, and that was huge for her. And then also she's been handed the thing to Grace as well as she ascends back into prominence. And yeah, we'll see. I think if she goes, I think she got unfinished business with the Ring of Honor brand, and I think putting her against somebody like Athena, who's been on a fantastic run, I think that'll be the best thing for her in immediacy, as opposed to her going straight up on the AEW roster, which she could also do. But I think she got unfinished business with the Ring of Honor concept because it ended up getting to the point where she was trying to get it to after she left. So yeah,
And part of the thing that worries me about her going to the Ring of Honor brand is simply put, if you think how bad some of these people look on AEW television because they don't show up, imagine how bad it's going to be when you go to Ring of Honor, where there's really nothing there. Where you're really stuck in this situation where so many people aren't watching the product. So many people don't even know you exist. Because there aren't a lot of people who have the Ring of Honor streaming service. And I've said it before, I'll say it again. I don't know why AEW doesn't sit down with TBS and TNT and be like, Rampage is a terrible idea. I think Rampage is Friday night. I think.
yeah,
Rampage is a terrible idea. Let's make that a Ring of Honor show. Move over someone huge to the brand to solidify it and go. But right now, like, who's out there? Cesaro? Like that's the question that you really have to ask yourself with the Ring of Honor stuff is like who really is over there to help bring eyes to it, and Cesaro's not he's not the guy, yeah, it's Kingston now, and he's not the guy either. Kingston's great and all, I love Eddie Kingston, but he's not that guy. So you're going to need to, bolster the Ring of Honor brand a little bit if you want to bring it over to television. And bring it over to television is the only reason why Purrazzo should even go onto the network. So I don't know if I want to see her in Ring of Honor because, and this is like a sticking point for me. They've done Athena dirty. She was a star in the making. Beautiful, athletic, had a great look. Equal parts Lost Boys from the movie Lost Boys and equal part Lost Boys from the movie Hook. May seem like a redundancy, but it's not. Drastically different aesthetics. And yet she's been toiling away for a year on the Ring of Honor brand. I couldn't tell you one major feud she's had because it hasn't broken the Ring of Honor zeitgeist. It hasn't come over to the mainstream. Like, here's another TNA Impact name, Mercedes Martinez. Where's she been? I think she'd been on Ring of Honor. Couldn't tell you. Nobody watches it. I shouldn't say nobody. Not a lot of people watch it. And I feel like if that's where Purrazzo goes, Jesus Christ, what a step backwards. It's probably going to be for more money, but it's going to destroy her reputation, just like so many other names who had value before they went to AEW end up. And it's not a knock on AEW. Like, this isn't like anti-AEW sentiment. I want AEW to thrive. But they don't know what they're doing half the time. And it shows in the way they treat all these phenomenal major talents who had value before they ended up there, and then somehow just poof. And I saw someone like, was it Ethan Page? Or probably wasn't Ethan Page. Somebody had mentioned that they hadn't wrestled on AEW television for 5 months despite being healthy. I forgot who it was. Now Bryan Danielson is fining people who criticize the booking on Twitter who work for AEW. He doesn't just fine random ass people. They have to actually be employed. And it's like, book better. You have 2, 4, 5 hours of television every week. Book better. That's all I
That's
gotta
that,
say. Book better.
that's I mean that's interesting. Real quick before we transition. Speaking of Brian, would that be somebody a name that you put as a get for the Ring of Honor situation?
If I can get him for the entire year and he doesn't kill himself and he's healthy, yes. I would absolutely put Bryan Danielson at the top of a AEW led Ring of Honor show on PBS or TNT, whatever network it's on now on Friday nights. And I would put the belt on him, absolutely. And I would move Joe over to Ring of Honor. And I don't give a shit if their combined age is 90, which it's not even a joke. It's probably pretty close to that. I would absolutely have them do a 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 month feud for that Ring of Honor World title where they change it a few times. I absolutely would. And then I would cultivate the roster to be like the roster that Ring of Honor built its foundation on. And if that means moving over certain guys to the brand, like maybe a Darby Allin or Action Andretti, then so be it. But I'm not putting guys like Brian Cage on there. I'm not putting Madison Rayne on there. I'm not putting some of these really nonsensical names on Ring of Honor that don't make sense. Like, you need hard-hitting, high-flying names powered by brutality, not characters. I'd have Cesaro on there. I just wouldn't have him as a world champion because the man has next to no charisma. Dude can't cut a promo to save his life. He could swing a house. Probably for a good minute. Couldn't cut a promo for 38 seconds. So, who would you want at the top of the Ring of Honor brand? Would you want someone from AEW like what's his name, Alex Guevara, or let's see who else, Orange Cassidy, or would you want someone that fits more in line with what Ring of Honor was? Although Orange Cassidy would fit really well with Ring of Honor.
I'll mix it up with those two and the names you mentioned. I throw and I wish they would have dropped the belts on them, but I think the narrative with this whole MJF Adam Cole best friend BS it took precedent. I put the guns down there, make them tag champions. I'd have um
What
cause
guns? Oh, the guns. The okay, yeah. I thought you meant the machine guns. I'm like, wait, what?
no no
Colton and Ashford or
yeah
Barton.
yeah I put them down there. They had them tag team champions because Ring of Honor also has a trios, right? Um,
I think so, yeah.
I'd have those be for the Lucha Bros and Commander. Like you said, have Brian as the champion. I'd obviously have Athena be the women's champion with two top competitors being Athena and a returning Thunder Rosa. Away from that that roster of putts that she had to deal with. A group, not necessarily the whole roster, but that group of putts she had to deal with, and keep the period champion in Shibata. And then you know that's strong, like you said, transition some of those names that you mentioned. I think you could put them on TV because they deserve it, and I think you good to go. I think some of the Ring of Honor shows that they do the big ones that they still do. I'd put them next to a lot of the AEW shows that they've done. You know, because I think they maybe run one too many, but that's just my opinion. Um, but yeah, they definitely need to give Ring of Honor that shine. Like you said, Rampage is a lot of times just not necessary. It's an hour. I think you can devote that hour to Ring of Honor if you're going to honor the brand, really. You already got me. That's 4 hours of content for AEW exclusively between Dynamite and Collision with like the 7 pay-per-views that you run. Oh yeah, so it's just seems right, you know.
I think so. I think one of the things what I hope to do over the next week is really sit down and comb through the roster of AEW, like the entire roster, Ring of Honor, unassigned, what have you, and compile what I think would be the best, we'll say 30-person roster for a 1 hour show every week, and see how that works. I think I might be able to put together a pretty heckin' decent looking roster, but we'll see. All right, that's gonna be it for tonight. I need to go and get some food and some drinks, and I was gonna work tonight, but after the shift I had, I'm done ski. So let's break it down. You can find Marcus on his other, on his Twitter account at ParadoxKid, ParadoxKid.
That's me.
And if you've ever seen How I Met Your Mother, you know that X marks the spot. On. You can also find Marcus on his other podcast, The True Penny Show, TruePennyShow. That's the True Penny Show on Twitter. They cover a lot of international stuff, Japanese content, GLEAT, New Japan, what have you. Check them out. They're worth a listen to. You can also find me on Twitter at Chad Nerdcorp, ChadNerdCorp, and on the Instagram at Chad's Photo at ChadSphotoHut. We'll be back next Monday for another edition of the Wrestling Underground podcast. I do think we're going to take a week or two off near the end of the year. We're certainly not going to be recording on Christmas Day. So I think we'll be off from 24th through the 30th at the very least. So we should be back next Monday at least. And then we might be done until the start of 2024. So expect that to be the thing. Other than that, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking us out. Thanks for giving us a chance. Remember, as always, to watch more wrestling. We'll be back next Monday night at about 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard. For Mark Shreen, I'm Chad Porto. Thanks again for tuning in. And Marcus, take us home.
Good night, me.